want to thank you very, very much from the bottom of my heart for joining myself, David Rogerson, a wonderful co-host. I call him Big Case, Mr. Casey Fields, who's become quite an expert in all things Manson and other true crime-related fields, which we're going to delve into here in the future, some side-related subjects. But in the meantime, what you're settling into is known as Twilight Garage. And what we're going to be about here is drugs, sex, rock and roll. Or if you prefer, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. But that's the premise. We love the mid-60s, kind of on into some of the 80s, into the big hair, you know, high French cut bikini era is kind of where we land. So with that in mind, we're going to start this episode in this series of episodes with Twilight Garage involving the Manson murders, because that's how Casey and I met. I'm going to have a side story that you can check out here on the channel about how I got into it, because it's a little decadent and long-winded, and I don't want to hold you hostage here. But the long and short of it is, this gentleman here and I came in contact with each other through his Facebook page, which is just wonderful. Can you tell us about that and how that got started, Casey?
Oh, we started No Sense Makes Sense about a year ago, and it's a great group of researchers. We're lucky to have everybody. A lot of good contributions daily, and I'm really excited about it. Really, the purpose for it is to help launch the book, which is expected out next year, called No Sense Makes Sense. And
that's the thing. I had seen a lot of pages and a lot of different people pop up in this milieu, having observed it for many years and not participated. I kind of got drawn out of the woodwork on a lot of things pretty immediately upon seeing your page. It's very different. Now, is this what we can expect with the book? And for those not initiated in the No Sense Makes Sense Facebook page, can you explain what you're fleshing out there? And in doing so, is that what we can expect with the book, kind of? Or?
Yeah, so I've been posting snippets on the page from the book, but really the book is going to be a resource for the community. It's a chronological reference book, basically, going back to the 1800s with the homesteading of Spawn Ranch, going all the way to present day.
Okay, so then we're talking about all the ancillary characters, because you've pulled some people out of the bushes and into the limelight. I've read extensively, and I may have gotten a line or two about some of these people, and you've really elicited quite a bit of information. It's all substantiated. Now, you're working very intimately with Deb Silva, is that correct?
Yeah, Deb's been a big help to me over the last couple of years. Not only providing me research, rare documents, I'm just kind of trying to collate it all together and put it all together in a volume that people are able to quickly, accessibly reach what they're looking for, and it just be a resource to the whole community. It's not going to be like a lot of these books where it's a page turner from beginning to end. No, this is going to be something that if you want to read about what happened in 1967, you can go to that portion of the book, and we have 40 pages just on 1967. Wonderful. If you want to look on the August 8th and 9th, 69 and the murders, even the 10th at the La Biancas, you could go straight to that section, and that's about 70-something pages just on those 2 nights. So,
well, that's, I think, what I've really liked about your page is it's spoken from a neutral voice that has long been only coming from Deb, where Deb Silva, if you all are not completely aware of her, we're speaking about a lady here in Northern California who has a wonderful resource known as the Manson blog, right? Is it Manson blog or Manson family blog?
MansonBlog.com. I think it's been going since around 2012.
And it's her and
Matt Malinik and some other great contributors that have written articles over the years. George Stimson is one of the writers.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And you can go back, and when you look at a post, if you use their search function, you can find things going back with Robert Hendrickson, all kinds of great experts that I haven't met or heard of since. Like, there was a guy, I guess, Colonel Scott.
Yeah.
He's one of these guys, like, I wasn't active. But I love reading some of the stuff he comes with. Some of it has since been deleted. Like, they'll get, clearly people get in arguments. And it can get really heated, which, hey, I want you folks here to understand, you, our kind viewers, because without y'all, this is nothing. Everything is triangulated, okay? You are the missing piece. You are why we are here. We're working together. You're going to have information. You're going to know people. You're going to have insight. Please do share it with us. Be so kind as to reciprocate our effort that we're doing sincerely and out of love, because people like Deb, I'm finding out more and more. And it's beyond the research. It's also now going into a phase where it's been happening so long. It's the researchers that we now, their information needs to be collated and recognized, because some of these people are now deceased, not active, or are just simply not happy with what's happening now with some of the newer people, because it becomes a repetitive cycle. People come on, Charles Manson to just right now what he deserves to do, right? And then you understand the just your page. I mean, people just, don't they kind of jump over the wall with the same attacks? There's like 3 main attacks.
I love it because I love seeing people's reactions to different posts. A lot of time, I learn from our people in the community all the time.
Right.
That's one of my favorite things when I go on mansonblog.com. I look at the comments after the articles, right?
Sure. Those people, some of them, and I want to do this here, really invested. Some of the greatest insights I've gotten, you can't cite them as resources for research, but you'll get a comment on something on Manson blog from 15 years ago. Who was doing anything 15 years ago, firstly? Secondly, this will send me on some rabbit hole, 16 comments down, and I'm like, wait a minute, wait. Well, then you start looking at things in a different shade. Those kind of gifts are what you will hopefully contribute on this show, because that's what I want. This knowledge and community, I'm quite new to it personally at about 5 or 6 years. I'm just here to gently, I don't want to stir the pot in a bad way. I just don't want anything to stick or burn. That's it. The knowledge is here. We don't have, like Stoner. What did Stoner say that time?
Yeah, Stoner said there's no ownership on knowledge, which I think is a great statement.
Yeah, out of the mouth of babes or drunks, whatever it is, will occasionally come wisdom. Good old Stoner, man. We love that guy. But
it's true, though.
There it is. And so we are not setting in this line of knowledge to have any issues beyond credibility, showing your work, and please, please, please be kind. But this comment forum and all the things we're going to provide for you, they're here for us to all enjoy, okay? So just keep that in mind. Stay adult. It's not the pandemic. We don't have masks. We want to also emulate Deb's example of getting together.
We want to share. There's no ego in this. We don't own it. And so we want to share documents. If you have a question, leave it in the comments. I'll try to provide the documents and links for all of this stuff.
And if there's a ladder to run it up, we'll try to do that too. We're not making any claims like that, but hey, there's sometimes more knowledge than is apparent behind us, and we'll try to utilize that for your questions. Another feature we hope to do to keep the channel viable, to support the people that support us. We've got potential survivors and different people coming on in the future, and to do that, it's going to take some resources and time, okay? So we're going to be on what is known as locals, or local, and it's going to be our for-pay site. We're also going to be doing things on here like super chats, where you can ask certain people certain questions on various topics during an episode. We'll go live on occasion. We're not going to do that a lot. As I've observed, and I'm grateful, okay? Everyone who came before us, whether I personally enjoyed your show or not, David Rogerson thanks you. You showed me by example things I would do and things I wouldn't do, and we're going to structure this thing a little bit differently, and it's to be kind to the subjects. It's to always acknowledge the victims. There is no place for mocking. There is no place for minimizing the suffering and the loss of life, meaning the person's actual life they experience and what they have to offer to the world around them and their children that was taken from them. That will never, ever be something that we can make light of here. So in the comments, please, how that went down. Much is made of thanks for bearing with us on all our disclaimers here early on. Let me out the jail. And don't throw me into to the freedom and the madness of society. I just can't handle it. Keep me in the jail. People love that story about Charles Manson allegedly begging to remain in Terminal Island. Is that right?
I mean, that's what he says, and some authors have said. You guys are going to have to make a decision for yourselves.
Much is made of said tale. So what is your take on, because that was a really sketchy time. If you think about being released, the last time he had been circulating was when?
59 or 60, yeah.
That was my understanding.
1960, I think, yeah, something like that.
Lord. And that was with the Rosalie...
Yeah, he had gotten in trouble, basically human trafficking girls across the border for the purpose of prostitution. So...
Oh, but he's a nice guy. Come on, man. He never fucking traded in pussy, bro.
He had a long rap sheet, though. A lot of stolen vehicles, which back on those days, it seemed like they just give you a slap on the wrist, right?
Well, it was easy to do. And if you think about the impulsiveness and the impetuousness and people's desires back then, it was pretty simple. When you don't have a background, it's not like you have a driver's license or you have any resources to get anything together. Hey, man, I need to get out of here. I mean, we used to steal cars all the time when I was in the Navy because, hey, man, we're from San Diego. We all look the same. We're not from here. It's a Volkswagen. We know how to do this. You got 2 roach clips and a length of wire. You're good to go, bro. That was known stuff. So we'd cruise down.
Yeah, I guess he used
all the time and do stuff like that. That is a newer thing. The consequences of Grand Theft Auto and the new security precautions really discouraged it. But that's one thing that the culture of car theft is definitely has definitely lost its popularity with the baleful youth of our society. The go-nowhere children of the future just don't have the drive to drive. So he had been out of circulation 8 years. You think about the changes that were radically happening in that period of time. So he comes out, he stated it how, there's some interviews where he likened it to music, right? His life experiences on the outside were so small, he likened his life to music where it was almost like a song he heard in passing every 10 years you would hear a new song.
Mm-hmm.
Like the radio was only available for one song every 10 years. And he broke it down this more manic, speedy tempo and how absolutely harrowing it was for him. And that might have been why he had, said what he had said at Terminal Island. It's just like, man, it's crazy out there, man. Meaning, like almost like a beatnik, like, whoa, daddy.
That's the thing is he
His
came from
speech is different.
he came from that previous generation. So when he was getting out in 67, March 67, he was a beatnik, right? And
That's always been
the
my
hippie,
feeling.
by this time the hippies were already becoming a thing.
And the beatniks were sorry and sad because you don't iron your hair. You know what I mean? Like that's out, daddy.
And like even my dad graduated in 1966 high school.
Oh, cool.
So he was a young guy, but he, because of his older brother, went more towards the beatnik era as well. My dad never got into the drugs or the hippie scene in the 60s, even though he grew up here in the Bay Area.
Okay, cool. Because I would meet those dudes and there would be that delineation.
They wear the jeans, they roll their white sleeve t-shirt.
They weren't into the Beatles.
Yeah.
Those are the dudes who didn't get into the Beatles.
My dad loves the Beach Boys. That's kind of his band.
That's what I'm saying, bro.
Yeah.
There's that. But I saw that too down in the desert. There was a lot of that. And that's where I talk about it in my little bio is about growing up in my town of Ridgecrest, where it was the same kind of thing. There was this, real macho, tough guys. And then there was the dudes who smoked weed. And there was a real delineation there. Big time. So he's getting out, Terminal Island, and he's released into what? How does he get away from the prison? Does he have gate money? What's he wearing? What's going down for CMM?
So he had, I guess he had $35 in his pocket. He had a guitar and a small suitcase full of clothes. And this is where it gets a little bit cloudy. There's a couple of different stories. One says that he immediately hitchhiked up to the Bay Area to go stay with a buddy of his that was ex-prison mate in Berkeley. Another story goes that he was picked up on the side of the road hitchhiking by a guy driving a semi-truck who took him home and fed him. And I guess mid-conversation, Charlie revealed that he had just gotten out of Terminal Island and the wife wasn't comfortable with that. And the next morning, the semi-driver drove him into L.A., to drop him off. We're not quite sure which of those happened, but we do know that within a day or two, he made his way from L.A. up to the Bay Area in Berkeley. And he did stay with this ex-con buddy of his. But shortly thereafter, there's a lot of strife going on in Berkeley at that time. You have the student protest, the countercultural movement.
Yeah, because
right.
This is another angle I want to talk about. We're occasionally going to slow things down because we tend to go quick because we're achievers. And when we read a book, we like to get done with it. And we want to disseminate it. We want to get the whole idea. Going slowly. If you triple read certain passages that are important to you, you can gain so much insight. So verbally, I'm going to be a person who throws the anchor out on something like that because people don't oftentimes consider the environment of these actions that we read about. You can hear the dialogue. Well, Charlie, or whoever you are, talking like an ex-con, don't kick my dog. And he's over here playing his game with Mary Brünner, allegedly, in Berkeley, which I'm jumping forward to. But you don't hear in the background the rah, rah, rah of the bullhorn. There's this heightened sense of excitement and just volatility. And there'll be some yelling, and you're young. And like, what's that? What's going on over there? And then there's this rock and roll thing happening, which is, again, what we're going to get into on the show. This episode, obviously, being Manson talk. But she and him meeting in this heightened sense, I think that's something that gets glossed over. So we're in Berkeley. Is he going to get cut loose by these people too because of the wife?
Yeah, so he's cut loose, and I want to hear real quick. Cal Berkeley at that time was actually a very conservative school. People don't realize that because it's very liberal now. But Cal Berkeley, they were kicking the students off of campus for protesting.
Literally.
So there was like this
physically
lot of
dragging them out.
This area of land that was vacant, which became known as People's Park. And People's Park was like the center for the anti-war movement.
They got exiled to People's Park because it was away from the buildings. It still exists as university property that's being now built up into some sort of housing to just really eliminate the potentiality of this happening again, because that so shook Berkeley and changed the character of the university, the Cal University system, and the city itself, that 60 years later, they are not going to allow their multi-billion-dollar cash cow to be interrupted in any way, shape, or form in that fashion again. So what we were experiencing as this was written, that I like to take in, because I was born in 67. So when I'm reading about 67, reading about Charlie, he's out here, he's this character. What has he got? A knapsack, bedroll, and a guitar, allegedly. That's his statement was, he was near Sproul Plaza at the gate.
This is on the campus of Cal Berkeley.
Cal Berkeley, for those who've never been there, there's a nice little circuitous road that hugs the campus, and it curves around with these gentle hills. It is storybook. Huge, beautiful redwood trees. There's a very ornate, gorgeous gate where he sat. It's a real traditional meeting spot. When someone says, we're with Channel Blank News interviewing blank about blank here at UC Berkeley, and if there's some chanting or noise or whatever, it's always at this gate. Couldn't be a more iconic spot. When we have Manson chat on here, you're going to hear me talk about another thing, which is these people were larger than life Western movie characters, period. Things happened to them in a daily fashion that would spawn a television series. It's incredible, some of these stories. You have this allegedly incredibly charismatic, good-looking ex-con, early 30s, right, 33-ish, Jesus age. He's got his guitar, he's being a minstrel. You can't imagine, unless you've been to UC Berkeley, the immense depth of just beautiful young women there. There is a universal, it's not even international, it's universal. The most exotically beautiful young women you will ever see. Tens of thousands of girls who look like models walking around. And then you've got what? The rule of 10, right? In casting, isn't that like the real crass thing that allegedly locker room talk gets into, right? You throw it out to 10 women. At least one of them's going to say yes, right?
So this courtyard, Sproul Plaza, actually during that period of 1967, Martin Luther King spoke there.
It was the hotbed of every activity.
So Charles Manson is sitting there playing his guitar.
Yes.
Mary Brünner works as an assistant librarian on campus right there. And literally a block away, Abigail Folger, which later will come up in this case, is working at a museum there on campus. So you have these three people that are iconic members of this case, all in the same area at the same time as huge historical events like Martin Luther King speaking on campus are taking place.
And the whole free speech movement, Mario Salvio, that happened right there. That's the same exact area. So one of the things I love about this, and people ask, how do you get sucked into this so thoroughly? It's this type of historical relevance and everyone being kind of woven together. Everything, it's serialized in this incredible fashion. You have this just iconic, now folk hero in a weird way, Charles Manson, strumming these jams that we now know. Look at your game, girl. Like, wow, that thing got millions of sales when the popular rock band Guns N' Roses recorded that song. And what was that, 80 or 90?
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about that in an episode.
The cultural relevance of this guy, here he is just fresh out of prison, and you're already having these type of interactions, already having this type of impact, and then he meets Mary Brünner.
Yeah, Mary Brünner is a straight girl from Wisconsin, already graduated from the University of Wisconsin. She's now working on, I believe, her postgraduate degree working full-time at this library. She's walking her little dog around campus, and Charlie's playing the guitar, and he kind of kicked out towards the dog, like
to get her attention.
Yeah.
She's walking by, not paying attention.
And she yells, "Don't kick my dog!" And it was really just his way to engage her because, he thought she was good looking or whatever.
What did he say later? It's like, I decided to play a game of, you get that ugly fucking dog out here, I'm going to put my foot and clap my foot in its ass game. And you're like, oh my God, dude, that's hilarious. But come on, okay, let's slow back down again. All right, let's get anecdotal. I'm here strumming my guitar to meet some girls on campus. And I swear to God, you guys, if we were down there right now and you're an observer of ladies, it's not even worth it, dude. Like, you can't even look. It's like going to Copenhagen or something. It's just, it'll go blind. So this guy's playing the guitar, being a legend, and then think about it. A girl is not noticing you. You're kind of striking out. You need a place to stay. You know what I mean? That's like such a guy move. Like, hey, girl, what's up? Like, you kind of harass a chick to get her to notice you. They kind of have this test of wills, which is fun. I mean, I did that before when I didn't have a place to stay in San Francisco. I met some girls and...
Yeah, what is it, women? What if he just said, "Hey, how you doing?" She might have just walked right on by and
she clearly was going to.
But the fact that what is it with women that sometimes you guys like that challenge or you guys like that,
they're engaged. They're kittens. He did a dog move, and women are truly kittens, and I love that about them.
So she was obviously intrigued by him and started wanting to know his story a little bit. Next thing you know, he worked his way in.
Sure,
hey, can I stay on your couch tonight? The next morning, she gets up to go to work. He goes and he retrieves his belongings, his suitcase full of clothes and stuff. He basically moves into her apartment. By the time she gets off work, he's already there, settled in.
Oh, man, that's classic because according to what she has said that in my reading, I don't know if that differs from what you've read or if you don't like that part of the account, but it sounds about right where Charlie had said, hey man, I'm all set up for sex. Like, I'm going to skin off my chonies and have a nice time with this uptight girl who Danny DiCarlo later, didn't he describe her as kind of high button and nose in the air kind of thing, which I thought Lynn in her book Reflections was really cool. And gave some different perspective on Mary. What did you think about that? Did you like that?
I liked it a lot. Yeah.
Because I kind of had always gotten the uptight thing, and before I kind of considered Beausoleil, her, Manson, penalty phase, all these things, she would talk to reporters and be like, looking like some kind of chinless Midwestern broad who was vaguely a snitch. But then I understand what was happening there, and it was Charlie trying to protect everybody, and that became a different story. So I then, as I learned more about the case again, my opinions changed, and I was like, oh, that's very interesting. Okay, Mary Brünner's in a very neutral place now. But then we think about how hardcore things got for her later, like, whoa.
Yeah, I think that Mary invited him over as more of a move of compassion.
Right.
I don't think it was he wasn't really her type, you
Nope.
know. She wasn't his type.
Well, she called him an ex-con
Yeah,
when he opened his mouth,
She
right?
told him, she was like, I'm not going to have sex with you. Right off the bat, she said that, right?
Well, that's what I was
Yeah.
getting to. Is
Yeah.
was that part of it?
Yeah.
Because she refused Charlie. Charlie's like, hey, man, I'm ready to get down, whatever. She's like, no. And then he's like, oh, she's going to be a tougher nut to crack. Well, let me tell you what I did when I was younger, living in San Francisco, needing a place to stay. This gal had brought me in. We did have sex because I, like Charlie, felt, hey, man, this chick's bringing me in her house. She may be a little cold around the edges, but hey, I'm here to do it. I got to pay for the roof over my head, right? So I did what a guy does. You know, you put out, make the girl happy, knock her ass out where she can sleep, sit out on her door, porch and smoke some weed and then come to bed, you know?
Yeah.
Well, she wants me out the next morning. You know, one of those. What do you do, right? Where's she even drag me? Nowhere. She's got to get to class. She's got to go. So what happened? She left. I don't have a key. She makes it where she can leave, and as soon as the door is pulled, it's automatically locked. And the door, it just shuts and locks like a hotel room. So what do? Same shit Charlie did. Fuck the door. I wedged the goddamn window open, hopped out, went, grabbed my shit, came back with, and this is what they didn't talk about. I bet he did the same shit I did. Brought some food. Doesn't cost much to get a chicken, okay? You start, first move, okay? Male sluts out there, listen up. You take an onion. You cut it directionally, yeah. And then a little bit of butter in a pan. You got some diced onion, okay? Slow, huh? Place smells amazing. 3 minutes later, you walk in there. Whoever's in the kitchen is an absolute genius. So then, hey man, whenever you get around to the chicken, it's fine. I just have it seasoned and half-assed started, so when she walks in, you can press the button because it's going to take longer to cook, and you're there longer, and you're going to soften the broth up. You cooked, you cleaned her place, and then you do the dishes afterwards and throw her some sneaky link.
Makes it a lot harder for her to kick you out, huh?
Bro. So that's how I saw it going down. So then we've got her going back and forth. Now, what I'm not clear on, if anyone out there can enlighten us, okay, be it someone who was there, be it someone who knows someone who was there or just has some sort of information we don't have. I'm not clear on how she got from her apartment because I do have it from an authority. There was an apartment in Berkeley. The apartment was supported by the Bruner family. Her father and mother came when Charlie was there, when Red was there, and Mary together. Red and Charlie left Mary with her parents to squabble about the arrangements. Her father called him a bum, a leech, a hanger-on, a loser, all these bad things. Get rid of this dude. Who's this broad? What the hell? So they had a very traditional blowout over Charlie and Lynn being there. So then apparently the family, what do? When your family comes in from the Midwest? They stay in town in a hotel for 2 or 3 nights. You're expected to go out to dinner. You're expected to give progress on what's going on. How's your internship? What's going on at the library? How's your graduate paper coming? Is your thesis in order? That kind of stuff. Normal family things. They love their daughter. They had quite a bit invested in her, and they were doing the right things as parents do. Well, man, can you imagine as a parent, father or mother, and you come and you see this very charismatic
32-year-old man,
right, who's got sway on your daughter, who's staying there, who's like cooking food and being cool and like, hey man, like very, he spoke to them. He didn't feel uncomfortable talking to the parents at all. And then here's this other person. There's all this vibe in the place. And then so after a few days, the parents leave. Well, then the status quo resumes. They're all back together, clearly. So I don't know, did they go and do the things on the North Coast?
Yeah, that was after.
Because I thought that was more
later in the
68.
summer.
That was,
No, those in 67, but later in the
it was
summer.
later in the summer.
Yeah, we're going to try to
That's like
keep this
August-y.
episode just to like March,
Very
April
early.
of 67.
So how,
Yeah.
what I'm not clear on, how did they get to coal?
So at some point,
No.
Mary quit her job. Let me back up real
please.
quick. So while Mary was still working at the library, Charlie was making day trips into San Francisco. He was trying to get away from this social justice movement, everything that was going on in Berkeley, and he heard that the vibe was a lot better over in the Haight-Ashbury. So he goes over there, he starts hanging out with these young hippie. They're not college kids, right? These are just runaways, and they're more what we consider hippies. They're free love, smoking, like doing, LSD.
Wow.
Yeah, enjoying just living in the Haight-Ashbury district, Golden Gate Park, as homeless kids, basically. So Charlie starts to be embraced by this community. Actually, this 15-year-old, and I don't know if it's Darlene. Darlene might be another girl, but we'll get to her. But this 15-year-old girl starts showing Charlie the ropes. She's telling him about how to survive in the Haight-Ashbury. Here's where you go and get a free meal from the diggers. Here's a free store.
Boy. I thought a boy.
It might have been a boy. I don't know.
My understanding of that is, and here I come, this period to me is very exciting because as a young man who had some volatile experiences like this, when you're that free and open, it is very exciting. The world is limitless. You have every single anybody could be anyone. Anything could happen. Like just excitement beyond excitement, and you're just high and you're out there and you're doing the damn thing. And this was pre-acid trip for him. He hadn't taken acid yet. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so he's still in the beatnik mindset, but yet learning the ways of the hippie. And the way I heard it was, there was a 15-year-old boy, maybe 17-year-old, I think,
Maybe.
where it was a 17-year-old boy because the Darlene was a 15-year-old girl. That's why they called their relationship rape. And that's why people say, Charlie never raped anybody. Maybe he didn't, forcibly hold people down and rape them.
We'll get back to her.
But there's a thing with Darlene. So, and that goes both ways, and that's a future thing. But that whole thing, my understanding is the other person was a young man, may have been named Brandon, whatever the hell the thing is, who met him in the Panhandle, who had a bag with him and a couple things, and it was coming on tonight, like the first time that happened to me in the Haight. Luckily, a chick brought me in. Like, I got shelter immediately. I was beautiful. But the thing was, for Charlie, he's like, hey, man, what do I do? And the kid's like, oh, come with me. And like you said, Peter Coyote is a very interesting, seminal San Francisco character. His biography is incredible.
And he was a part of the Diggers.
Yes, one of the integral early members. The Diggers were very kind people. It's an ancient tradition of doing for those less fortunate than yourselves, feeding the hungry, and putting salve on the starving. Really, truly doing what is God's work, the Diggers. And so this young male showed Charlie how they would help him find a bedroll, and that, food was not going to be a problem. It's just getting you a proper bedroll, and if you need some extra clothes, and to be able to keep warm in the evening, and where you should bed down. And it didn't change a lot between 1969 and about 20 years later, when I moved to San Francisco in 1990, and wound up, I spent a couple nights where they were all sleeping, which is Buena Vista Park, at the very crest of the Haight before it drops down towards DeVis and everything. It is an absolutely beautiful park. It is like a fairy tale version of a deadhead's dream of San Francisco. It winds around this hill, all behind and around these Victorian houses with this absolutely gorgeous wrought iron fence. And there's play structures, but these trees are absolutely fantastical. You can recline in them. You can sleep off the ground. It's just incredible up there at night. And that's where they were sleeping. The diggers providing the food. And this later we'll get into as well. One of the great cultures they passed on, of dumpster diving, was really just truly the diggers repurposing food, using their connections locally to feed less unfortunate children. Really cool, man.
They had a free store, which was pretty neat. And so it was all donation based, kind of like your Salvation Army now or Goodwill nowadays, where everything in there, though, you could walk out with for free.
Absolutely. And it was based on volunteerism, because you could see how that would go sideways. And what it was is it was an honor system. You come in and there'd be somebody there running the place, a little bit of a staff, and they'd eye you. Oh, hey. And the dude'd be like, man, I'm digging this hat. Well, if you're wearing a bunch of expensive gear, you're clearly not living on the street around here. It's like, hey, Jack, glad you dig it. How do you feel about the store? We're trying to feed these people. Could you please, spare a donation, lay something on us? We'd love to set you up with that hat. Check it out in the mirror, Daddy. It's beautiful.
Pay what you want concept.
Exactly. Which was, remember where that came from? The Little Rascals, right? Pay as you exit. What'd you think of the show? Sliding scale. What can you break us off? True brother love. And that thing keeps coming through this whole Manson chat that we're starting this first episode of Twilight Garage with. And that word gets beat up so badly. But at the time and in operation, brother and love, incredibly powerful, because people would truly commit in these heartfelt relationships. You'd have these heavy duty psychedelic experiences, like a one night acid trip could seriously knit you psychically to somebody that you've just met recently, and you can become incredibly close in this brotherly bond that is pretty inexplicable if you haven't partaken in something.
That's why it's actually important to, in June of '67, so right after, a couple months after he arrived, the Haight-Ashbury Free Clinic opened up. And so they were instrumental in providing medical care for 200 to 300,000 runaways that were now inhabiting this area.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
250,000 kids? And if you've not ever experienced Haight-Ashbury, it's roughly 10 blocks, okay? City blocks. They're generally 2 to 3 story Victorian buildings on either side of the street, and small businesses on the lower floors, some bars, a couple of clubs, mainly retail stores and restaurants. And this is 250,000 people, and it goes about 8 blocks to the south, up a hill, to where the Cole Street House and those places were. And then it goes to the Panhandle, which is about 4 blocks to the north. And then there's a couple of blocks of the Panhandle north that extended into this neighborhood. So roughly, you're looking at 160 square blocks, okay, of existing real estate that's fully occupied. And now you introduce 250,000.
It's attracting kids from all over the country.
And the world. They have tour buses. You've all probably seen some of that footage of the tour bus,
It's
coming through.
really funny.
Yeah, it's great stuff. Just great stuff. I don't know if it's copyrighted in a way.
They almost treat them like it's the Jungle Cruise at Disneyland.
Exactly.
If you look out to your left, you'll see some hippies.
Yeah, it's so cool. And it's like, listen to the sounds. It's
And that right there is a tweaker. He's most likely taking methamphetamine.
and then that all started to happen. And I think, was it as early as 67 that it turned? Was it like that fall?
Late 67, yeah.
So then that's when the Hells Angels allegedly started bringing in loads of methadone, aka speed, that was consumed in great fashion because hey, you got a couple 100,000 kids on the street who don't have a place to stay necessarily, and you got cheap methamphetamines that'll help keep them up. And then once you've done it for a while, it's really terrible to come off of.
What was the beautiful summer of love quickly went dark.
That's what you'll hear quoted
in
most of these documentaries. The Grateful Dead became just the dead.
And eventually they started discouraging young people from coming, right? It was just too many people in a concentrated area. The drugs really started to take effect, and they actually basically ended the Summer of Love with a mock ceremony called the Death of Hippie.
Yeah.
Right?
They
carried a coffin through the streets.
Effigy.
Yep.
Yeah, that was great. And there was other funerals that happened over the summer that really changed the tone of it. The Hells Angels really brought in a lot of heavy drugs. They started taking over the LSD trade. That had been really, Brotherhood of Light. There were some really great players in that scene that we would love to talk to on some of our, drugs and rock and roll episodes. We're hoping to bring some of that to you as well. But these things were being controlled in a more sinister and dark way because, Chocolate George had died, Chinaman Al, all these different people had died, and they'd had these huge funerals, and it really became almost as if they were Wild West outlaw funerals. Truly, you would have them basically posted up, dead, their colors out, them being trundled around town on these trike motorcycles with these coffins on wheels behind them before they hauled them down to be buried in places like Daly City, where Wyatt Earp himself is buried. There's a bunch of Hells Angels buried not far from him.
And you had iconic leaders from the movement that were showing up to give speeches, and Allen Ginsberg,
all over that neighborhood.
Timothy Leary,
Absolutely.
right? Were making some of their most famous speeches right there amongst these young people.
Continually. And we read about him like it's one speech, his iconic speech. There was a bunch of speeches and appearances leading up to that. You had Dylan partying. You had Janice living right up from the Cole Street house that we're trying to ascertain they're landing at now in 67. So we've got Mary Brünner. We've got later, Red joins them. But for now, it's Mary Brünner. And they're over on Cole Street. We're moving over there. So do you feel that the hop to the hippie hop was because perhaps these Berkeleyites were a little too formally educated, maybe had a little too much information, a little too surly, maybe they were a little more shrill, less sex, drugs, rock and roll, more intellectual, and less marijuana, more coffee, and kind of maybe boring for him.
Mm-hmm.
So is that what you're...
Yeah, that's exactly what I believe.
I hadn't really... now that you were saying that, that's a real easy conclusion for me to draw. And when I say it now out loud, it's like, well, of course.
And from what I understand, Charlie was also...
that's a good point.
He was actually interacting with other communes in San Francisco and in the North Bay. One of the one that he visited was a Christian commune. It was called the House of Acts. The House of Acts later on were instrumental in Los Angeles, what became known as the Jesus movement. Now, if any of you have ever heard of Lonnie Frisbee, this was one of the first people that Charlie met up there in Haight-Ashbury. Okay, so they also had a House of Axe commune up in Novato in the North Bay. So Charlie was already getting taste of this communal lifestyle and realizing this is something that he wanted to be a part of. So when him and Mary move over to this house on Cole Street, they call it an apartment, but basically it's a house with several rooms.
It's a flat.
Yeah, and they just
usually 3 flats in that neighborhood.
Yeah, they rented one of the rooms in this apartment. Now, I could do a whole episode. We could do this episode just on what took place in that Cole Street house. But before we end this episode, I want to go back to right when Charlie got out, right? So in March 21st, he got released from Trumbull Island prison. But the weekend of March 23rd through 27th was when the Grateful Dead played at the Avalon Ballroom. And Charlie was at this concert.
So that is allegedly the first time he imbibed an LSD. He's so famously associated with the LSD. So this is less than a week after getting out?
Mm-hmm.
Well, when did he meet Mary?
Probably the next month or a week later. I think he met Mary in April. Okay. So we're talking now, this is around March 23rd.
So he had done LSD.
Yeah, so in this time that he's hanging out with this guy, this 15-year-old or 17-year-old guy that's showing him the ropes, he also went to this concert, Grateful Dead concert, gets whacked out on the LSD. He described himself on the floor in the fetal position, and he said the next day he woke up and he's in this room full of people. The kid that had been watching after him got him home that night.
Wow. Because the other is funny again, depending on what you read, and again, it'll just be like a little hunk in a book, and you might not even see it pass, where basically Charlie describes, and I don't know if people had described it to him or if it came back to him later or what, but he described imbibing in the LSD, going to the Avalon Ballroom, the Grateful Dead are playing, he became the music became him. They communicated together on this electrical wavelength, and he became this electrical movement that in some way became magical and remarkable enough. People remember it. Many people have told this story who were observers of Charlie on the dance floor that night.
And Manson even said that he didn't even need the LSD. It was such an experience just with the music in general that he would have remembered it, but the LSD enhanced the whole experience for him.
And that's one of the other chats I want to have about the Brotherhood of Light, about this electric music that was happening. And, people like Country Joe and these other people we hope to speak to soon will hopefully enlighten us on these things where the music and the way it was presented created such a true psychic energy that now saying it almost sounds trite. And it's sad to me because I've experienced really heightened, pleasurable, lengthy concerts because of the way the music affected my body and my psyche, and it became then spiritual. It feels like God has entered the room. And if you let go and surrender to the music, then you can be a vessel of God as well. And that is a real common feeling and a distillate of these type of experiences, be they sober concert experiences or LSD experiences, even outside of a concert, listening to, say, recorded music. I remember having very profound experiences as a child, listening to favorite records after I'd eaten LSD. It was a whole different perspective on the material. So I think them together with Charles.
So let me ask you this. When you took some LSD, how long was the experience? And did you chill out so much that did you eventually pass out? Or how's that go?
I think the acid that I experienced early on in the 80s, like early mid 80s, was significantly different than the acid that was being presented at that time. I had for the time it was good acid, but it was just blotter acid. These guys, we are not clear. Did he have barrels? Were they gel caps? Was it a direct liquid hit? Did he have blotter? Was it a 4-way blotter? Because if he had 4 full hits of good, clean, like Owsley blotter, let me tell you something. The eye of God is going to open up, and the universe is going to speak to you, and you're going to know just what to do, because you become Shiva, this fire dancer of great power and beauty. Wow, it's incredible. But that being said, we'll never know what he was on and to what extent. But having seen the Grateful Dead at their apex with the sound system, I can tell you, even back then, the quality of the music and the way it was being projected would really be incredible. Because if you've never been near their sound set, the Grateful Dead had Owsley, the greatest acid distributor, potentially manufacturer, arguably ever.
And we'll go into detail later on
about LSD and that whole situation. But he was a sound engineer, and he did a beautiful soundstage for the Grateful Dead over and over again. It would evolve over the years, and it would shoot music in all these directions where you didn't need, like he said, to be high to have a full aural experience. A-U-R-A-L, aural. It was incredible. So he must have just been really gobsmacked to come from jail, to come from these hard conditions, to be completely vulnerable, because you got to be on guard in prison.
Mm-hmm.
He's got no backup. He's just really having a great time dancing.
Complete culture shock.
Fetal. You would get just totally ruined in prison if you did that. So then he gets brought all the way back to the Haight. Now, if you understand that distance, the Avalon Ballroom resides on Van Ness Avenue on a slight grade, okay? A few blocks down is Market Street. You go up Market or anything, then you're going to find Haight, which is a big hill. So you're talking a couple miles to get old Charles Manson home. That's a cool little kid there, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, holy sheezy. Now later, wasn't there that nutty documentary, just the kid's name?
Yeah, so there was a family that lived on Cole Street, across the street from Charlie, Mary, and Lynette. And they were renting a room out to a student that was going to USF or San Francisco State at the time. And so this guy was a filmmaker, this student. So he started doing a student film on the little boy of the people that he rented the house from.
Yeah.
Now, little Sean was like three. Sean's like 3 years old.
Dude.
And this guy's taking his black and white camera and just bringing it down to a 3-year-old's level and just following as Sean is running through the Haight-Ashbury. And it's like a 15-minute film about this little boy in 1967 and how he sees the world. They're asking him what he thinks of the tweakers. They're asking him what he thinks of cops. It is an amazing story. We will link that in the description of this video. I really suggest you check it out. Great 15-minute film.
What?
But
wow.
So right across the street is Manson, Mary, and all of them. And so it's funny. I was going to save this for a later episode, but we might as well bring it out now. So this is bonus. This is bonus. So in the documentary, the filmmaker asked Sean, do you use weed? Do you smoke? He's like, yeah, I smoke it. 3-year-old saying he smokes it. But he also says...
The kid's 4.
4. He also says...
Let's not defame anybody. It's a 4-year-old, to be clear.
He would rather eat it.
That's right. He did say that.
Now, what's funny
and
is...
I'm like, did someone make him edibles? Like, how's the kid eating weed? Like, What does a kid know about eating cannabis?
Now, there's an interview that Manson gave back in the 80s where they ask him about a kid named Sean, and Manson says, yeah, I remember this little kid that used to eat weed.
That's right. And that interview is like a Vacaville interview or one of those. Yeah, that was I don't know. Sean, it's a very endearing story. It's a sad story. It's a beautiful story. It's very emotional to watch it as a person of my age because, you know, I kind of was, you know, those were the memories I had were very similar to that. People's parents, shirt off, you got a big weird beard, you know. Captain Weirdbeard would always have a strange project, and you can see Sean's dad. They're building some very wishful looking watercraft in the basement. It's like it doesn't look in any way, shape, or form safe or waterworthy. And they're throwing out phrases like "world cruising, seeing the world," and so I always wondered what the F happened to Sean. Like,
in the early
Sean capsized outside of the bay, like immediately
in the early 2000s, the filmmaker went back and did a follow-up full length documentary called Finding Sean or Following Sean. I can't remember.
They must have had to pay for that.
Yeah. Now that was like an hour and a half. Yeah, you can find that probably on Amazon or Apple.
That's why I haven't seen it.
Yeah. Now that one is going. He tracks Sean down, and now Sean is a father. He's a husband, and he's asking him about. Do you remember a lot of these experiences? Most of it, Sean doesn't. He also tracks down Sean's mom and dad, which are divorced now, and have moved on with their lives. So
they didn't capsize and die. Because I just figured, I'm just cheap, so I didn't get to see the other one. Because I don't like paying for shit on the internet.
I really recommend the 15-minute YouTube free version, though.
Art. And I was just like, in my romantic heart, I saw them just go outside the Golden Gate Bridge and just immediately capsize because that would be so romantic.
Now, I've watched that video several times to see if we might be able to catch Charlie or Mary or Lynette in the background somewhere.
Well, here's, again, viewers, might you know that filmmaker who resided in one of the rented rooms of Sean's flat on Cole Street? Might you have access to the raw footage? Because guess what? There's probably footage of some pretty interesting people that we would like to review with you on this show. So if you got that footage out there, I personally would like to receive it and speak with you and guarantee its safety as we develop it and translate it onto digital format. My treat to you. You will get your original materials back. You will get your digital materials back. What I would like, digital copy and the ability to review it and talk to you about it. We'll talk ownership or my ability to use it later. But man, if you've got that out there, please get at us.
And don't be confused because he filmed it in 1967.
Right.
On the video, it says 1969. That's when he actually published it.
Because that is the way it always works. It doesn't matter how small your film is. You're going to jump through a bunch of damn hoops to get it out. It always works that way. And that's why we are so grateful for you, because we're going to start wrapping this thing up and saying thank you to, firstly, Gus Bostrom, who gifted us our wonderful, wonderful set chairs. We're going to be getting some more love from him future. Some more love from Gus in the future, we hope. And maybe
he's at what? California Historical Designs?
He is indeed. It's an incredible thing. I want to also really be so graciously thankful to our producer, Mr. Alex Marino. I'm grateful for his technology. Twilight Garage has been a dream of mine for many years. I've tried to do it with a variety of wonderful crews, exceptionally talented people with very expensive gear, and through the mercy of technology and the blessings of God, we have what we need. And we want to thank you for, firstly, liking and subscribing. Secondly, for going ahead and being kind in these comments, coming around for our future episodes, and also coming behind the paywall a little bit, because we've got some things that I've made personally as gifts to you that I'm going to randomly give out. And then we're going to see who's sweet in these super chats and these different future episodes we're going to have. And I'm personally, I'm going to do some nice things for you. Again, any folks out there with any insight or information or materials, please reach out to us privately. We'll take nice care of you. We've got plenty of credentials to let you know you can trust us and your materials are going to be fine. We really can't express our gratitude for all the cast members in the story who survive. We hope to never disrespect you or hurt your feelings or speak in a way that would be less than kind. To the victims and the victims' families, always in our hearts. These are two separate things, and I hope you bear with us on that and keep that in your hearts at all times. Thank you so much for joining us.
We're excited to have you guys, and thank you for taking this time with us. Stay tuned for many great episodes to come, and a lot of cool, exciting things on the way.